Nintendo's first attempt at making a virtual reality console for the masses, a magical land filled with the colors black, and black, thin, indistinct lines as far as the eye can see, and home to a whopping 22 total games, including international exclusives. With all that, and taking into consideration it was just a headset on two sticks with a controller, it's no wonder why it didn't exactly light the world on fire. It even ended production after just 7 months on the market, such was the nature of its flop. But it's here, in this very unlikely place, that Westerners had their very first exposure to a franchise that had already established itself in its home of Japan. It's on the Virtual Boy that a little dungeon crawler named Jack Bros was released, one of just 22 games produced for the Virtual Boy. A simple top-down action game and one of the Virtual Boy's highest rated and rarest titles. One of the few games people played on that system and went, yeah, it's pretty good. And it was America's very first Megami Tensei game. Welcome to All In. My name is RONSPIES, and I've been dying for a chance to talk about Shin Megami Tensei. And not just to flex that I can seamlessly say Shin Megami Tensei in a sentence. Not only is Shin Megami Tensei 5 finally seeing the light of day sometime this year, fingers crossed, but SMT3 Nocturne is finally getting the respect it deserves thanks to an HD remaster for PS4, Switch, and PC. But let's just stop and recognize what a strange journey SMT has had in the West. Like, imagine if Final Fantasy's first release in America was a beat-em-up, or if Zelda first showed up as a racing game. With zero context, Americans were given a Megami Tensei spin-off dungeon crawler. I just can't get over how weird that is. And then there's all the other spin-offs and standalone games like Digital Devil Saga, Devil Summoner, Devil Survivor, a Fire Emblem crossover game, mobile games, an Xbox exclusive game, an MMORPG. Shin Megami Tensei is a vast and confusing world, and it's very hard to know how to navigate it or even where to start to begin with. And I didn't want to mention Persona here because it would be too easy, and I wanted to give SMT itself its day in the sunlight. But in case you didn't know, Persona is a spin-off of Shin Megami Tensei. So if you love Persona, you love a spin-off of a series that made its first international appearance as a spin-off Virtual Boy game. And then it gets even more confusing when you realize that the first localized mainline SMT game didn't come out in the West until after 2 Persona games. And that Megami Tensei itself started life as a book adaptation. And its spin-offs have spin-offs, and those spin-offs have their own sequels, and just, the key is to try to not think about it too hard. Very few SMT games are actually directly connected. If you're familiar with how each numbered Final Fantasy is essentially its own universe, there's a very similar thing going on here too. And like Final Fantasy, there are certain unifying elements and themes that carry across each game and series, like the battle systems, spell names, currencies, and the general design of each game. So yeah, I didn't call Shin Megami Tensei's life in the West a strange journey just as a reference to one of the best DS RPGs out there. Its journey has been pretty confusing to say the least. So I'm gonna try to clear everything up and hopefully make you care enough to at least try to remember the name of this series. Let's clear our minds, forget everything we think we know, not think about it too hard, and take it from the top. Shin Megami Tensei is a turn-based JRPG series developed by Atlus, the studio and publisher behind games like Persona, Catherine, Etrian Odyssey, and Trauma Center. Atlus is known for their distinct anime art style and unique JRPG design, especially apparent in each major Shin Megami Tensei and Persona game. The differences between SMT and Persona might seem minor on the surface. A lot of the demons in SMT are shadows and personas in Persona, and they both have very similar battle systems, and most of the spell names are the same, but that's about where it ends. The key differences between SMT and Persona can be narrowed down to 2 specific things: presentation and difficulty. So first off, presentation. What do I mean by that? I'm talking about tone, I'm talking about story and theme. I'm saying SMT as a whole is considerably darker than Persona, and I don't mean they just dim the lights a little bit. Shin Megami Tensei's worlds are mostly post-apocalyptic in nature, and typically due to some kind of divine, supernatural intervention, be it a demonic invasion, the fault of humans, or the powers that be simply deciding humanity isn't fit to exist any longer, the world ends or is irreversibly changed in some way before or explore at the beginning of each game. The stories are laced with existential themes about human nature, death, the value of life itself. Sometimes it attempts to say the same things as Persona, but SMT does so through a much darker setting. Persona started off on a somewhat similar foot, but has definitely grown into its own thing in the past decade or so. But the thing that truly separates SMT from everything else is its infamous difficulty. Shin Megami Tensei is known for being brutal. These are games that aren't afraid to push you to your limits and force you to understand some of the meta mechanics beneath its surface. Enemies will decimate your party while you're forced to watch in a desperate panic. They'll kill you in ways you didn't even know were possible, and sometimes all you can do is grind up, use status effects, and hope for the best. It's legitimately one of the most hardcore JRPGs ever, so you might want to mentally prepare yourself before you hop in, none the wiser. I don't want to scare anyone away from giving these games a shot, but just know that it's a series that requires your utmost attention, focus, and dedication, but you will be rewarded for it. Thankfully, if you're interested in that kind of JRPG experience and want a taste of it right now, Atlus has you covered. Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne finally gets an HD remaster on May 25th. Not only is this one of the greatest RPGs of all time with a fresh coat of paint, but there's actually some fun new additions that will surprise people like me who have spent some time with the original too. Fully voiced dialogue in both Japanese and English, a new difficulty setting for people who don't want to get obliterated by Matador, and the ability to save in the pause menu, which is a game changer if you've played the original. And if you've been on the internet for as long as I have, you may be familiar with the phrase featuring Dante from the Devil May Cry series. That actually originated from SMT3 because the Western release actually featured Dante from the Devil May Cry series as a character in the game's story. For a variety of mostly corporate and legal reasons, when you get SMT3 HD, that character will be replaced by another SMT character called Raito Kuzunoha. But if you get the deluxe edition of the game or get the Maniacs Pack DLC separately down the line, SMT3 HD will indeed feature Dante from the Devil May Cry series.
Jackpot.
If you've ever been curious about Shin Megami Tensei even once in your lifetime, then I strongly recommend SMT3 HD. Nocturne is the thesis statement for what SMT is and can be, a fascinating, unique take on JRPGs unlike anything else out there. Nocturne is an amazing game, and I'm so happy at the thought of more people playing it and joining the hype train heading straight to Shin Megami Tensei 5. I know this remaster was almost solely done to build up to SMT 5, but I really hope this means we'll also eventually see some re-releases of games like Persona 3, Digital Devil Saga, or Devil Summoner. We can only cross our fingers and hope. Thank you for watching. That's all from me. If you want to see more of me, follow my Twitter account @WadeLikesPie and subscribe to my YouTube channel called Input 1. So on that note, check out Shin Megami Tensei and stay tuned.